Hello and welcome to episode 47 of the Perth to Paisley Podcast. Heart and Midlothian kicked off their 2021-22 season with a Premier Sports Cup victory over Peterhead, and I, Adam Kennedy, is here to dissect the victory alongside Daniel McIver as always. How are we, Mr. McIver?
I'm doing very well, I'll be totally honest. I've had a very, very good footballing weekend because I'm representing them. Copa America went very, very well. Colombia, who I'm wearing, because that's right, there's a visual element to the podcast now, remember. You can see me in the Colombia kit. They finished third. However, Argentina won, which meant that Lionel Messi has finally won an international trophy. Then Hearts won, which was class. And then Italy won. It was the best weekend ever. And I got a PS5 ordered from Angela Ballantyne, who's a Hearts fan as well. It's just been class. How are you?
Listen, mate, I could not have summed up the weekend any better than that. I think your chronological order was a wee bit off.
It's fine. It doesn't matter.
Hearts won first and foremost, and then it gradually just went a little bit downhill after that. But no, obviously, chuff for Argentina, my man Messi. Even the tennis, I watched Novak Djokovic, who's literally a doppelganger of my Uncle Drew, claim another Wimbledon title. And then obviously we had last night and all the chaos that it brought. So no, it was up there in terms of a footballing weekend, wasn't it? But of course, we are here to discuss the mighty Jam Tarts who take the forefront of our footballing weekend, first and foremost. 2021-22 season kicked off. Peterhead away to the Blue Toon, kicking off the Premier Sports Cup group stage campaign. And it was a 2-0 victory. It was pretty routine, wasn't it, on the whole?
That is the best word you could have possibly used. A routine, professional performance that is expecting of a Premiership side versus a third-tier side. But, to be honest, still a wee bit surprising because it is us. And the last time we went there, it didn't go like that. So, yeah, definitely chuff with that. What about you? Were you expecting that kind of performance?
I was expecting that type of performance, to be honest. I had 3-0 on the pod last week, so had we had our shooting boots on a little bit more, I might have been bang on. But no, I think we were thoroughly dominant, weren't we? I don't think Peterhead had a shot on target in the entire 90. So as professional a start as we could have hoped for, really. Hearts lined up as follows for the trip up north. It was Craig Gordon in goal. I don't know about you, right? But it looked a sort of 3-4-3 to me, as opposed to. So I know there was sort of various shouts about formation and what have you, but the way I interpreted it anyway was Craig Gordon in goal, back three of John Souttar, Craig Halkett, and Stephen Kingsley, with Michael Smith on the right, debutant Alex Cochrane on the left, with Aaron McAneff and Peter Haring in the middle of the park, and Josh Ginnelly and Gary Mackay-Steven either side supporting Liam Boyce up front. Is this our test, or is this our possible strongest 11 for you?
Oh, that's an interesting call. I didn't think you were going to ask me that. I thought you were going to ask me about the formation. Currently, probably, yeah. I'm trying to think of anybody else who could be in. I mean, the midfield, I guess some people will make arguments about the midfield too, but I would still say Haring and McAneff are the two I'd want. Ginnelly out wide right, obviously. Boyce is strongest. I guess the only person that you could say is, would Nandwilly fit in? But then it means that you have to change formation and drop one of the front, in this case 3. So I don't, and obviously the way the game went, those 3 did very well. Ginnelly less so, but just because it was a quieter game for him. But it probably is the strongest. A lot of that, I think, is down to the fact that I'd probably prefer a different centre-half to Halkett, but we don't have one. So it's like, currently that is the strongest squad. I'd maybe like us to improve that. But generally, if we lined up with that team, for example, against Celtic at the end of the month, I don't know who else you'd put in and go, they would make it stronger.
No, I hear that. I mean, the formation, obviously, you were surprised I didn't ask you about that. Do you think we'll see a lot more of the 3 at the back then? And do you think that potentially us moving forward, us, looking for a couple bodies, we are sort of catering for the potential to have a 3 at the back and switch it up? Or do you think that Robbie will be more set in his ways with this 4-2-3-1 malarkey still?
No, I do actually think we'll see more of this. When Cochrane signed, Nielsen made it very clear that I think he said 3 different formations, which I know you're kind of like a 3-4-3 is very similar to a 3-5-2. Like you literally just need to drop one player into the middle and the other wide player up with Boyce, and you've got a 3-5-2.
That's what I was going to say about Big Nando. Sorry to cut you off when you were just going to say about that. I would then probably deem it more likely that Josh Ginnelly, to me anyway, Gary Mackay-Steven seems a lot more comfortable at a 10 than Ginnelly does.
That's fair.
I think with the variety, or sort of the only variety that then comes from that is GMS at 10 and Boyce and Nando up top. But
there is also the element of, in the last 5 games, speaking about the 3 in the back, we changed to the 3 in the back in the last kind of 5-ish games towards the end of last season. Or it was basically when Heron came in properly and Suter came
John
back.
Suter as well,
Yeah, we changed this 3 at the back and it worked. We're currently, I think it was after this weekend, we're now 6 clean sheets in a row. We're still not conceded with Suter and Herring in the first team as starters. The 3 at the back does do really well, but then going forward, Boyce kind of seems to drop into the 10 when we played the 3, at least at the end of last season. Obviously, on Saturday, we didn't play that formation, so Boyce was the striker. He spoke after it about how he likes that, but Boyce actually worked really well in the 10 with Nandwilly, and that's when GMS was moved far more centrally as kind of the second striker alongside Nando, and it really worked. Like that's when GMS in those last 3 games really kind of looked like Gary Mackay-Steven for the first time in 18 games. But I think it's a massive positive that I don't think a lot of Hearts fans, ourselves included, realised we had. I think a lot of the time, for most of last season, we kind of thought, right, Boyce has to play as the focal point striker, and then we have to work out who plays off him. But just bluntly, Boyce is so good, he can do so many roles, and one of those roles is dropping deeper, picking it up, and then playing it off. And as a result, it allows the flexibility of formations to not necessarily have to disrupt the actual starting 11. You can keep the starting 11 pretty similar, but be able to play so many different formations out of that 11.
There's different kind of alterations that come with that in a positional sense then for you.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd probably go along with that. I mean, you mentioned Gary Mackay-Steven there. I feel as though this is going to be a really big campaign for Gary Mackay-Steven, and I think he's got off to an ideal start. I thought he was excellent at the weekend. And to be honest, in that first half, whilst there wasn't a lot of action, he was probably at the heart of it, first and foremost for me. I think the earliest chance, he sort of takes one round the keeper and blazes over from a tight angle. I know Liam Boyce had a couple efforts that were either, wide or blocked. And then GMS looked as though he was going to win a penalty for us. But of course, Hearts would take the lead after 31 minutes, just after the half-hour mark, through Gary Mackay-Steven. A long really aimless ball from Stephen Kingsley finds GMS, who seems to sort of flick it onto himself, bizarrely. And then obviously drives into the box, sends it a low effort beyond the onrushing keeper. And like you say, this is the GMS that we've been crying out for. I know it's Peterhead. I know it's the first game of the season. But, and I said it on air and stream when I was on with him at the weekend, toward the end of the championship season, it did seem as though he was really coming into his own, and hopefully pre-season and now this sort of League Cup, or these League Cup fixtures, I should say, should see him gradually returning back to his best, hopefully.
Yeah, 100%. I think he was kind of far and away, barring Smith, our best player at the weekend. He did just seem to be able to create stuff from nothing, which is often the tagline that has floated around with Gary Mackay-Steven for most of his career. He's the type of player that can just take a ball and you think nothing's going to happen, and he does a flick, he does a turn, and you're suddenly in. And I do get your point where you're saying it's only Peterhead, but on the flip side of that, he wasn't doing it against teams like Alloa and Morton last season. So it's almost irrelevant who the opposition is. It's just the fact he's now doing it. Like, as we said in the last few games, particularly against Inverness and Wraith away, he really started to come into his own. The best possible thing, as you said, was for him to get a goal in this game. I think generally his performance, I would have been happy with him without a goal, because I just thought for the 70 minutes roughly he was on the park, I thought he did really well. But the goal it did add to it, and it very much was exactly the type of goal you want Gary Mackay-Steven to be scoring, where if you watch the highlights back, you can actually hear Boyce getting annoyed at him the more and more he doesn't pass. Because I think Boyce is just like, there's no way you're going to be able to score this, so you need to play it back to me. But I think the big word is confidence. I don't know if Gary Mackay-Steven would have had the confidence to do that in his first wee while at us, but since he's really kicked on in the last few games of the season, he's actually had a pre-season now. Well, he's in the middle of a pre-season, and it's been able to just kind of go, oh yeah, I do have that ability, and he actually is starting to show it, which is class.
I was going to ask you exactly that. I think it is all down to confidence for Gary Mackay-Steven, to be honest. I think his goal, I don't think there's actually a great deal on for him. I feel as though he sort of feels as though he's got to take matters into his own hands, or in this case, feet. And listen, I think the growth in confidence, there's no danger that the GMS that we first signed would go and do that. Mm-hmm. So I think as matches go by, as contributions come, he just seems to be growing in confidence and stature. And I think he could be a really big player for us this season. I wanted to ask you, because it's just something that I've thought of sort of spontaneously and off the spot. To me, he's a bums off seats type player. Mm-hmm. Who do you think was the last player that we had that sort of fits under that category?
Milinkovic, probably.
Well, see, I'd forgotten about Milinkovic.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
because I had David Templeton in my head.
Temps is absolutely one of them, because he came after the kind of, well, obviously he was part of that team in 2012 and stuff like that. He was a bit part player, but it was kind of the next season where he really came into his own. But I guess you could say Ginnelly was last season for the wee bits that we saw of him, but I don't think you can count him really, because it was so little. I know he did so much in that short time, but it was a wee bit of it. But I might be being harsh here and forgetting someone in the time frame between Milinkovic and GMS now, but I totally get what you mean. We've been crying out for them for quite a while, basically.
That was my exact point. You know, it has been a rarity, and a fully fit Gary Mackay-Steven is exactly that. I think with regards to that conversation, do you think Ginnelly is probably not included just because of the caliber of opposition, or is that too harsh?
No, I think that is definitely fair. Milinkovic was doing it against Celtic and Hibs and stuff like that, whereas Ginnelly... In fairness, though, Ginnelly did it against Celtic in the Scottish Cup final.
True.
Like, he did it, but obviously the general reason... Hearts fans weren't clamouring for Ginnelly to be signed just because of that Celtic game. It was because of the season he had. So, listen, I do think there is a point to that. I do think there is an element of the fact of going, right, we would like to see you do it at the level that we should be at. I don't think there's any doubts that he'll be able to if he's fit. Like, if he's fit and ready to go with his nice new hair. His hair was mental. He seems to have a different haircut every single time he appears. I feel like I've never seen him play 2 games consecutively where he's got the same hair, and I'm all for it. It's part of the reason he's here. Part of the reason I love him. I'd sign him for the hair alone, to be honest. That gets you off your seat. His hair.
I was going to say, if the Barnetts keep changing whilst the goals and assists are constantly arriving, then I'm all for it.
What a trifecta. That's what it is, do you know? Yes, goals and assists are class, but you need to be changing the hair as well, because it's top quality so far. We've seen one game and I'm in love.
Of course, Hearts would grab their second goal just before the hour mark. Do you know what? Talking about this game, I know that we're going to touch on the performance on the whole, and that it was, thoroughly professional, routine, all that jazz. But the actual game itself, not a great deal happened. And to be honest, this is where kind of the debate comes, in that would you rather results or entertainment? And whilst it would be great to ideally have both, I think in this campaign, I'm leaning towards results. Definitely. Whereas last season, I was probably more entertainment.
Yeah, that's fair, because a lot of last season, it was expected that the results are just going to come because it's Hearts in the second tier. This, it's funny, I was saying that to my mate actually at the weekend because he was saying the exact same thing. It was like, listen, don't know if it was quite at the standard. It's like, I viewed that as just, we said it last week, Robbie Nielsen doesn't give a fuck about these games, right? He is just like, this is also pre-season. He just views it as we should be winning these games anyway. That's the benchmark. So therefore, just get fitness into your legs. I'm not really that bothered about performances, just especially just now when it was our first competitive game. I know we've played a bunch of friendlies, but they're friendlies. Like, who gives a shit? This is our first real test. And we just, as you said, I don't think Peterhead had a shot on target. We never looked like conceding. Incredibly professional. But on the whole, as a season, no one's... I say no one. They did complain the last time it happened. I would take third, but playing like shit every week. But it meant we got third. Because then next season you can go, right, we can build on that. We've got to third right now. We shouldn't drop in quality, but let's improve the actual performance. But after the past few seasons we've had, where we've been playing shit and not getting results, I'd like to play like shit, but get results and go end up back where we should be.
And the weekend was all about sort of minutes in the tank, and it's preparation for what's to come. But of course, I was alluding to it there that Hearts would double their lead through Liam Boyce, who had a couple chances within the game, but probably deservedly grabbed his goal in the end. Peter Haring, who I also thought was exceptional, sends a long effort over the top for the overlapping Michael Smith, centres for compatriot Boyce, who's the simplest of tasks. And I think we've touched on GMS and sort of his contributions coming early and why that's a good thing. For Liam Boyce to grab his first goal of the season in the first game as well, it's a superb start, isn't it?
He said, I think it was yesterday, that previously in past seasons, he's been really rubbish in pre-season friendlies, but then always kicked on and started really well. However, this campaign, he's been getting goals in pre-season, so he was worried that the reverse was going to happen and he'd start off and not get a competitive goal for 5 games. However, 100%, he's just our best player just now in terms of importance. Like, if Boyce plays well, the team tends to play well. If the team plays shit, Boyce is usually still playing quite well. Like, he's our focal point going forward. As I said, whether it's in the 10 in a 3-5-2, whether it's with a partner, or whether it's on his own with wingers coming off him, he just seems to be able to do everything. Obviously, his goal wasn't this incredible finish from his perspective. It was
typical poacher's finish, wasn't it?
100%. Like, he knew the position the ball was going in, got himself into that space. But you still need to score them. Like, GMS missed one identical to that at Tynecastle last season. Like, you can miss them very easily. Getting that goal so early, it'll do wonders for his confidence, settle any nerves that he might have had going, I've went a couple of games without a goal yet. And speaking about Haring as well, and Smith, I think it was the best move of the game, without a doubt. Like, the pass from Haring, after being able to control it and kind of just bully the midfield, which he did all game, was amazing. And the pass he makes to Smith is incredible. It was really good, I think, to see Smith playing in that wing-back role. And I think that move was the pinnacle of it. He just, again, like Boyce, just knew if he made the run, Haring was going to find him. The simplest of passes across the box. It's exactly what you want. Put it into that danger area, because if a defender touches it, it could go in. It goes out for a corner. Blah, blah, blah. Boyce gets it. That was the goal that really filled me with confidence in a weird way, because I was like, look, clearly there is a blueprint for us being able to make moves like that. There's no excuse that we can't be able to do that.
And we also touched on the fact that whilst Peterhead weren't all that threatening, there's still always that bugbear that Hearts aren't to the good. They're still firmly in the game despite having created nothing at 1-0. So that ultimately did just kill off the tie completely, didn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we're speaking obviously about results versus performance and how there should be a blend of two, but what would you take? last season showed us, particularly in cup games, the result is all that matters. It doesn't matter how you get to the next round or how you get the result. You just need to do it. And last season exemplified that even more because we got knocked out both cups by part-time teams. So I saw a lot of people saying that 2-0 against Peterhead isn't good enough. I disagree. A win is a win. I don't think 2-0 tells the story either. 2-0 kind of implies that maybe touch and go, that Peterhead could have got back into it. As I say, Peterhead it should have been much more. But I'd much rather we're just kind of calmly and professionally beating these weird teams that we should be doing, but haven't felt the confidence to do for a couple of years now.
And given that we didn't last season, I think 2-0 just summed it up. Pretty comfortable, routine. And when I look elsewhere, I mean, the Premier Sports Cup kicked off on Friday night. There was Kelty Hearts, just coming into League Two, and Dundee United scraped past them 1-0 with a late Lauren Shanklin goal. So, it's bizarre. I think, would folk then be slating United? These same folk that aren't all that convinced by Hearts. For me, it's just a case of, like I said earlier, minutes in the tank, job done, we move on.
Yep, 100%. Kelly only beat East Kilbride 2-0.
There you go.
There's that, but I didn't see a lot of Kilmarnock fans getting up in arms. If it was in the league and they were like really struggling and somehow they played East Kilbride, for example, in the Scottish Cup, if somehow East Kilbride get to that third round when Premiership teams come in and Killy draw them and you go, and it's a Brora Rangers situation with us, like that's justified because it's around halfway through the season at that point. There's no excuse at that point.
There's competitive fixtures either side and whatever, and you're sort of fully in full flow.
But all three of those Premiership teams, Kelly aren't a Premiership team anymore, but that was a genuine, that sounds like I'm just trying to wind up Kelly fans. I promise you, that was me just going.
I did wonder when you'd pick up on that. I was like, he does know that there's sort of that disparity between killing the Championship and non-league East Kilbride as well, but
it's fine. It's fine. The point generally...
Dundee got promoted, by the way, mate. I don't know if you missed that.
Oh, yeah, of course. These teams are just using this. To be blunt, I know a lot of people say it's disrespectful. I saw a couple of people saying it's disrespectful the way Hearts are treating these games and the way particularly Robbie Nielsen makes no bones about the fact he doesn't care about this competition. But to be blunt, yeah, that's why we're in the... It's an embarrassment we're even in the competition this early. It's shit. And I never want to worry about playing Peterhead again and watching Cy Ferry run about a park for 90 minutes. I never want to see it again. So we got out of there. We got the win. We got the clean sheet. Done.
The only positive that I take from this kind of cup campaign, or the group stage, if you like, is sort of ticking grounds off the list, and yet that obviously hasn't come for a wee while. So
yeah, we can't even do that.
It's an absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
I think looking at the 90 on the whole, I mean, I was clutching at straws when I was watching the highlights back in preparation for this, kind of trying to fathom out sort of clear-cut chances, and there just wasn't a great deal, was there? I think we could have on another day grabbed a couple more, but that's just nitpicking for the sake of nitpicking, isn't it? Really,
yeah, definitely. The main thing I wanted to say was I thought Finlay Pollock came on and again didn't look out of place. Like he just came on, did what he had to do. I saw a bunch of the Peterhead players try to get in his head and wind him up, and he just he didn't look bothered at all. He didn't do anything special, but he didn't do anything wrong.
No, and this is where it'll be interesting sort of going further on, because say we beat Cove Tuesday night, which, let's be frank, we should, then are we more likely to see youngsters against the mighty Stirling Albion?
Yeah,
potentially,
most likely.
having got 6 from 6 or whatever.
I think that's pretty fair. Robbie has hinted, we'll get into it towards the end, that there will be a couple of changes against Cove, but not too many. It's still going to be generally a very strong team that was similar to the one that played, or at least started, against Peterhead. I do think that's pretty fair, though. We'll probably just look to go. We did it last season, and weirdly enough, the team that was filled with the kids was actually the best performing team. So
against Wraith Rovers, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It might continue like that. I do think Robbie will just use these final few games to go, right, get as many minutes as possible into as many legs, because it shouldn't matter who we field. We should be able to win every game.
No, definitely. And of course, one player that was involved against the Blue Toon and is now in search of a club clean sheet record is our new club captain, Craig Gordon. Of course, prior to the Peterhead match, he was confirmed as skipper. I could see that you're not particularly pleased. I wonder, is that because a particular or a certain Frenchman wasn't given the armband? Is that why you're sort of disappointed?
I had printed leaflets. I've got banners on the go. I was going to be getting you to take them to the game against Cove.
Some bunting.
I had everything. Party hats, wee cakes with his face on it. What does the Moor have to do? Like, it's a shambles. It's an absolute shambles.
Well, this is where I was going to ask you, was Craig Gordon the only logical choice? Because we could have had...
No, Demure was. Demure was the only logical choice.
Northern Ireland international Michael Smith, John Suter...
French under-19s international Loic Demure. I don't know if he
about 20
represented
years ago.
I don't know if he represented the under-19s. I'm guessing he did.
Well, one man that obviously disagrees with you with regards to Loic Demure potentially being Hearts' new captain was Robbie Nielsen, and he said, obviously with confirming Craig Gordon as captain, that we spoke to the players and Craig will be the captain for the coming season. Last season, I thought he did really well. He's got brilliant experience, great leadership capabilities, and he's played at the highest level for a long, long time. Obviously, he came through the Hearts Academy system as well. I'm delighted to have him as the captain this season, and I'm sure he'll do well. He's very popular. He leads by example. He's been over the course in football for a number of years, played at the highest level, played international and still playing international. He went away to the Euros, which was great, and we hope he continues to play at that level for us for a number of years. I think it's always good to have the guys further back that can communicate. With Craig and his leadership skills, you can see it about the place. He's a top character, and he's definitely earned the job as captain for the club. Does Loic Demure come into that bracket for you?
Yes, look at him. He's a god amongst men, a hero, a man who will take a game by the scruff of the neck and control it. I saw him do it against the mighty Spartans, who, by the way, are in the pyramid. The Lowland League and Highland League is in the pyramid. Last week you said they won in the pyramid, and I got multiple messages from Lowland League fans going, what is this blasphemy and lies? So, first of all, I want an apology to the Lowland League.
No, I'm not giving them an apology. Surely that's the...
How dare you?
No, is that not the equivalent to the conference in England?
That doesn't matter. It's still in the pyramid. It still counts as being in the football pyramid, just not the league pyramid.
Okay, so it's not in the football league pyramid.
Yeah, it's a very important distinction there. Okay,
I concede they're in the Scottish football pyramid.
There you go.
However, not
therefore, that is evidence enough that Loic Demure should be captain.
So sorry, Lower League fans.
You should be sorry. Right, listen. I'll take my Loic Demure hat off. Right. I think if Loic Demure wasn't to be captain, the best choice...
I can't believe I'm still hearing this shenanigans from you.
Well, now he needs to be vice-captain. We've got this apparent leadership circle. He needs to be head of that. So he's reporting to Craig, right? That's the situation. Craig Gordon is obviously the only other choice, barring Loic Demure. I don't like your attitude towards this. I really don't. I need to be taken seriously. This campaign has been mocked from start to finish.
I just can't believe where Loic Demure's come from.
He's come from obscurity to heroic status on the back of one pre-season campaign. Right? How many folk can say that? Not many. So therefore, he deserves the respect. Craig Gordon will give him the respect as captain. I think Craig will do very, very well. I know a lot of people don't like goalies as captains. I think
myself
we mentioned
included.
it. Yeah, we mentioned it last week. I'm kind of in that camp as well. But Craig Gordon, much like many things within Hearts, is just like the exception. We don't care. Craig Gordon can do anything he wants in his life, and Hearts fans will go, aye, but it's Craig Gordon, so we'll stand by him.
He's a staple of the club's history, isn't he? Really?
Yeah,
So,
100%.
I mean,
he's so
what's
linked.
it matter?
Yeah, exactly. He literally could be like 85 in the next few years. That's a bit harsh on him. Quite a few years.
Wow.
Quite a few years. And I'd still go, he can do a job. Like, just get him in goals. It's fine. He might have a walker and stuff like that, but he could still probably be better than Joe Correa. Let's be honest with ourselves.
There he is with his Zimmer frame.
Exactly. And still having
the Gorgie stand.
Still having better reflexes than the cat. That pisses me off so much.
He's a kitten, isn't he?
Yes, exactly. The fact that was his nickname and he couldn't fucking move it was a cat that had no legs or arms, and it was just a heat.
20 bags a week supposedly at Man United as well.
We can't keep focusing on that. We've got Craig Gordon.
Talk about stealing a living. Well, Craig Gordon himself said, for the second time, it's a big honour. Everyone knows I grew up a Hearts fan. To come to the club to play for them was always a dream. To add on top of that, winning a trophy and getting the captaincy, it's been fantastic to come back here and achieve what we set out to achieve. Now, on top of that, to have the captaincy going forward, it's a huge honour for me. It's come full circle. When I left here, I was captain. I don't even know how many years ago that was, but it was a while ago. To come back, it's a special place. It's always a club I've looked out for no matter where I've been. It's fantastic to get back here and to take that role on and try and improve and add my experience to the younger players coming through and try and help the guys round about me. That's the stage of my career I'm at now. It's going to be a very enjoyable part of the last few years that I have left to do that and help some of the younger boys come through. The obvious choice. I think he speaks really well as kind of the ideal candidate there, doesn't he?
He's a very good ambassador for the club, kind of generally in media as well. Like,
do you think he's the future Gary Locke?
Yes, 100%. Craig Gordon's the future Gary Locke. That's such an apt title for him. I don't know how happy Craig Gordon would be with that title. I guarantee Gary Locke would love that title, and that needs to be sent to Gary Locke. He will be buzzing with that. He better do it. That now needs to be a thing. Folk, just get in contact with Gary Locke and tell him Craig Gordon is the future you. Don't give him context. Just say that as a statement and see what he does.
I've got Lockie's number. I'm going to send that on to him.
Yeah, do it. Don't give him any context to it. Just literally go, Craig Gordon's the future you, full stop. Leave the message at that. Block the number. He never gets back to you, and he's just perpetually puzzled by this random statement on him. But it's like, I get what you mean by that, because he is very much just Mr. Hearts in many ways. Like
that phrase that's always banded about.
I know, and I kind of hate that phrase. But he's Mr. Hearts in an actual physical, like, real way, because he's come through the academy as a Hearts fan. He's captained the club twice. Record sale, and he's won a trophy with us. Like, there's no many players that can say all of that together and still have years left in the tank at the top level. So I'm delighted for him. I know a lot of people, we both said it, we would have liked Michael Smith as well to have it. Like, but I think players like Suter, Smith, Demure, Boyce will be in that, like, stop laughing!
I can't believe you're still pushing this narrative, man.
They will all be in this leadership circle thing.
I just honestly, I just can't believe that this Loic Demure patter is just going to keep going on throughout the season. This is where he plays no competitive games, bar the Premier Sports Cup, isn't it?
He's not even fucking played in that yet.
That's another cameo against Peterhead. And granted, I know that we're 2-0 up and probably searching more goals. So him coming on, like, we don't need to shore things up against a side that finished 7th in League One last season, do we?
No, he should have made an appearance. It's terrifying, mate. He better start. Obviously, this goes out on Tuesday the 13th. He better be start. I need him to start tonight because I need your first game at Tynecastle.
I knew you were going to say that.
To be a Demure masterclass. I need that to happen. Please. Please, Robbie Nielsen. Just play. Even if he's not in your plans, just start. It's Cove. Come on. Just do it. But yeah, Craig Gordon.
Craig Gordon was the great choice, even though you're adamant that it should have been Loic Demure.
It should have been.
You know, it's funny, we're on about Loic Demure, but I didn't see him amongst the squad number list. Is he on there?
Do not do this to me. live on air that he's
no,
not
he
even.
is.
Oh,
No,
yes.
He is. I've just gone on the graphic because for those that obviously might have missed it, Hearts did release their squad numbers, and I was just going to run through them, despite how dull and tedious this may be. But
no, squad numbers are class. I love squad numbers.
it's one of those tiny little trivial things that the vast majority of people don't like.
See if you play Football Manager.
But
See if you play Football Manager.
I was going to say
love
exactly
squad
that.
numbers.
Or FIFA, like it has to all be arranged for me. I'm in that. It's OCD kicking in, but of course, looking at the numbers, there's a couple noteworthy ones that are missing. So that's already set my ticker off. So if I go through it. Number 1, Craig Gordon. Number 2, Michael Smith. Number 3, Stephen Kingsley. Number 4, John Suter. Number 5, Peter Hanning. Jamie Walker at 7 still. Aaron McInniff takes number 8. Liam Boyce 10. Gary Mackay-Steven 11. Ross Stewart 13. 16, Andy Halliday. 17, Alex Cochrane. Craig Halkett taking 19. Jordan Roberts 20. Arman Nandwile 21. Number 22 is Ewan Henderson. Harry Stone, who has, of course, joined Partick Thistle on loan, is 23. Scott McGill, 24. Cammy Logan, 25. Connor Smith, 27. Mihai Popescu, 28. The man, the myth, Daniel's legend, Loic Damour, 29. Josh Ginnelly at 30. And young Finlay Pollock wears number 38. Any noteworthy talking points in there for you, mate, with regards to the numbers?
There's some big ones that I'll let you get to about missing numbers. However, a massive one for me is just that Cammy Logan took Jamie Brandon's number and Jamie Brandon hasn't been given a number.
Yeah, he's still got a year left on his deal, hasn't he?
Yep. He's still here. He's still kicking about.
He's the new Loic Damour. This is it.
He's not.
He's going to be a wage thief.
No.
This is
all right. Yeah, in that sense. Yeah, I thought you meant the redemption story. No.
No. How can he redeem himself without a squad number?
Unless that's true.
Unless he's taking number 6 or number 9.
That's true. But yeah, those are the other big things. Are like obviously like McInniff taking 8. That's a more
from Ollie Lee now. That's vacant.
Yeah, that's a more suitable number for him. One of the biggest talking points that we mentioned last week is that Halkett has retired, 26 for the season, and has taken the vacant 19 from Andy Irvine. But yeah, there's 2 pretty important numbers missing.
And number 3, obviously taken up by Stephen Kingsley as well. Now that Eddie White's away.
Oh yeah, of course. I forgot about that.
But no, I mean you touched on one of the vacant numbers there. 6 is obviously vacant following Christoph Berra's departure, but the headline grabber, if you will, is the fact that Heart and Midlothian are without a number 9, with Arman Nandwile taking 21, his previous number at Blackpool, which I find bizarre as a centre forward. Like, surely
it's his lucky number.
But surely you want that number 9, no? Does that
no?
Just go out the window?
I have like a weird thing because obviously Newcastle are my English team, and Mitrovic always wears 45 wherever he is because it adds up to 9. That's what he did. That was his number at Anderlecht when he broke through, and he's a striker, so he's like 4 and 5 add up to 9. Nandwile is 21 because it was apparently the number that he got his highest goal tally ever in a single season. So he was like,
oh, brilliant! So we're expecting 30 plus goals.
I don't think he got 30. I think he got like 16. But
Jesus.
I mean, I'll take if Nandwile gets a 16 goals next season. I'll take that. But yeah, the big question is, because this is what happened last season as well. We didn't have a number 9 until Nandwile came in January. Are we going to fill that number 9 top in the next month and a half?
Thought so, surely. No?
Robbie has said that he has looked at 3 or 4 attacking options. We don't know if that means wide players. So you'd go, they're probably not going to get number 9.
Attacking options is very
vague.
Yes. That's exactly the word that I was looking for. It escaped me there, so thanks for that.
It's all right.
Yeah, I mean, I said again on Aaron's stream on Saturday when I was on that I feel as though we are a little bit light up top. I think anything happens to either Boyce or Nandwile, then we've got Ewan Henderson, who, whilst is a decent young prospect, for me isn't, the finished article just yet. I would like to see a more senior striker available. But I mean, we haven't really heard anything with regards to anybody coming in that area, have we?
No, and I'll be honest though, I quite like that. I like the fact that again, we said it last week, Gino was kind of always going to sign. But I like the fact that Cochrane came out of absolutely nowhere. Like, it was just like bang. I didn't like how last season, who was that boy? Oh, I can't even mind his name now. The guy who will go to apparently sign before we sign Nandwilly. The guy from Walsall.
Elijah
Adebayo or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't like how that got out in the media, and then apparently Walsall then asked for more money or wages to be restructured or something.
And then
like
he
that.
signs for Championship Luton, and he's banging them in toward the end of the season.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a good laugh.
But that's exactly the point. It's like when it gets out in the media, it can knacker it because it's like, all right, okay, we know we have more bargaining power because now everybody knows that you're in for him. So
yeah, we're going to demand that higher fee and
100%. So I quite like the fact that, and it's such a basic thing, but we never seem to do it. Just like keeping everything in-house. We'll obviously go on to it in a minute about the recruitment being completely restructured. And it just feels more, the word I was trying to think of earlier in the day when I heard about all these positions being fit, it's like, it just feels like we're finally becoming like far more professional in this thing and modern with the way that we're actually bringing in people and doing our recruitment, as opposed to just John Murray asking folk going, have you got a left winger that we could have? Like,
it does seem like there's some sort of like genuine strategy, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. And that we've gone about it. I don't know whether we're taking inspiration from kind of other clubs and the way that they recruit. I think there's lots to be said for the likes of, even if I'm viewing the summer, like Brentford's recruitment, for example, would probably be a leading light because they're not exactly a big club. And now they're just in the Premier League after, knocking on the door for a couple seasons now, moved into that new stadium because of, I'm assuming, fees amassed from player sales and what have you. So I think there's lots to be said and sort of inspiration to be taken from other places. With regards to number 9, what are you sort of hoping for within a centre forward? Would you look for a target man type? Do you think we need a poacher? Is there, have you got sort of anybody in mind as well, I suppose? I mean, I know it's obviously not up to us, but there's.
What are you talking about? We are the hub. We are the scouting network for Heart and Midlothian.
But I can't think of like any free agents or that where I'm like wondering why they've not been snapped up off the back of a particularly prolific season. There's nobody that's sort of ringing round in my head just now.
Yeah, 100%. I don't have anyone specifically, but I'd quite like just. It's weird because we do have. Boyce and Nandwilly are so different, which is why we were so happy that Nandwilly came in, because he's a completely different option to Boyce. What that probably means is, though, you're going to sign someone that is similar to one or the other. Just because they're so different to each other, there's not really a middle ground. Like, because, for example, again, going back to Newcastle, when I think of traditional number 9, because of Newcastle, I just think of Shearer, which doesn't mean anything in modern day, because in modern day, Newcastle's number 9s have been Dwight Gale, Obafemi Martins and stuff like that, who are not like Shearer at all. But
the polar opposite.
Yeah, exactly. But when you think of a number 9, in my head, I just think of someone like Alan Shearer, just robust, kind of a poacher, but just a clinical finisher. I don't really care about their body type, because I think we've got Nandwilly for the big target man to be able to hold it. Boyce, he's not small, but he's weirder than Nandwilly, who is able to just kind of hold it up and be quite nippy. But then again, with a number 9, I don't associate that with like a wee tricky striker. Like, I associate that with a bigger guy. All I care about, and this is the most obvious thing in the world, and you will never know this until you properly scout someone, and even then, you won't know when they come to your club. I just want somebody who you can rely on to contribute to goals. I don't necessarily mean direct goals, which is what I said about Nandwilly. I wasn't really bothered if Nandwilly came in January and didn't score, as long as he contributed to goals. He actually did both. He played 13 games and had 11 goal contributions with 6 assists and 5 goals. He did far better than I expected him to do without a pre-season. A striker, I'd kind of just like the same as that. Just someone to come in, and if he's not scoring, at least upping the amount of goals we score as a team. So Boyce is benefiting it, GMS is benefiting it, Janelli, Nandwilly, Henderson, just it creates something that makes us better as a team. But that's what you want from every player. Like, you want every player that you sign to improve your team.
I mean, we sort of touched on it earlier on as well. Obviously, now that 9's vacant, we're probably in the market for a striker. What other positions need filled for you?
Centre half. I think we need another centre half. I don't think Halkett is like the worst thing in the world. Like, some people, I think, kind of view him as. I think a lot of people are like, get rid of Halkett, he needs to go. I think Halkett's fine, but he's just not at the level of Suter, Smith, or Kingsley, which make up the rest of the 4/5.
I think also with his deal up, he's got a point to prove. You know, he's sort of drinking in the last chance saloon, isn't he, really, in terms of staying at Hearts? I think, you know, say he performs really well up until January, we haven't extended his deal, and then clubs are sniffing. We're then in the driving seat in order to offer him a new deal because he's impressed, or if he's not up to scratch, we can offload in January and potentially get somebody else in. You know, I think there's a couple sort of in that bracket, but he seems to be the main one that this is make or break for him this season. And whilst centre half is a priority for me as well, sometimes we could benefit from somebody wanting to stay and having that point to prove in order to sort of, I mean, there should be an incentive to perform, but that in itself is a massive, you know, pushing factor for me.
Definitely, I fully agree. I'll be honest, I would be happy with just a centre half coming in, even if they're just cover, because I worry that when we're playing this three at the back, if one of the three get hurt, because it probably means that, say, one of the centre halves, if Kingsley seems to be playing this kind of left-hand side of the three with Suter and Halkett swapping, it kind of means that if one of them gets hurt, Smith moves into the middle to cover the vacant centre-half spot, and Janelli probably moves down into a wing-back role, potentially.
But I was even thinking Haring moved to centre-half.
That's true.
Then potentially Halliday in the middle of the park.
That is fair.
McAniff. I don't know.
I hadn't really thought of Haring in that position at first, but I guess I would just prefer Haring in the middle of the park.
Yeah, no, so would I.
So even if it is just cover, even if we just do another situation with Alex Cochrane, obviously I'd love Jimmy Dunn, right? I would love Jimmy Dunn, as
That's
would
the
everybody.
hill that we're going to die on, because there's no chance of it happening.
Exactly.
I was discussing that with my work pal Lewis today. Obviously, we were sort of talking about the fact that it seems to sort of be released in the press that Hearts will announce something within the coming week. And for me, I'd love for it to be a centre half first and foremost, but and obviously Jimmy Dunn, but it's just heartbreaking, isn't it?
It's not going to happen, is it?
No.
Minute silence for Jimmy Dunn.
Yeah.
But Loichtemour's back, so he can play in the middle with Haring. Come on.
Well, I was going to move on because I'm sick of hearing about Loichtemour. We could be potentially finding the new Jimmy Dunn, what with the appointments that Joe Savage is making, obviously, or has made, I should say, since our last episode. 3 positions being filled. Hearts women have got a new manager. Eva Olid, the Spaniard.
So.
Don't know if that's the correct pronunciation, but we'll go with that. John McLaughlin becoming academy coaching development manager. Not that John McLaughlin, of course, he's still at Rangers. That was quite funny, actually, when I saw the clip of Still Game in particular being banded about the replies. I thought it was really good. But the one I wanted to touch on primarily was the new head of recruitment. William Lansfield is his name, 28 years of age. What do you know, Mr. McIver?
Well, in literally a sentence each, I'll cover the previous 2. Really excited to see what Eva brings to the table. It's a lot of amazing things on her CV. I hope she'll do really well. The women's team has a really bright future. With John McLaughlin, I don't really know. He was at Celtic's Academy, right? For a period of time, I think.
Now you're asking.
I think he was at Celtic's Academy. I might be totally wrong with that, but he obviously has a lot of pedigree in building youth. We've needed an overhaul in the academy for quite a while now. So
if Joseph is describing it as a definite coup, then we're taking his word for it.
100%. So yeah, hope he does well. However, absolutely, the big one is this William Lansfield. So apparently fluent in Italian, which after the weekend is a class sign. Like, let's just get Chiellini over. Come on. But the actual bigger thing is that he spent like 7 or 8 years working in the Premiership down south, the biggest league in the world. He's been bringing through, particularly at Southampton, a really good group of young players, apparently.
Was he head scout?
Yes, he was. Yeah. That's massive. Like, to get for us to get that is huge. We've got the head scout of a Premiership side. Like,
and when I was talking about sort of ownership earlier on, and I gave Brentford as an example, Southampton are another one. Yeah. You know, you look at their players of the past, and even, and I know that the running joke is that they're kind of the feeder club to Liverpool now, but picking up your Sadio Manes, your Virgil van Dijks, your, I don't know, Graziano Pellas, like Saints,
Lallana, Shaw,
Adam Lallana, yeah, like I mean, even boys through the academy, everybody knows their academy is great, but sort of these foreign gadgets that you've not heard of, to then build them into prospects and sell them on. You know, I had no idea who Sadio Mane is for one, and look at him now at Liverpool. It just is very encouraging, and I'm not saying that we'll sign the new Sadio Mane, but obviously it'll be on a much lower scale. Mm-hmm. But that certainly does seem a very exciting proposition.
Definitely. There was some people on Twitter, there's just seemed to be this rise suddenly in the last few weeks of just whatever Hearts tweet, if it isn't a signing, there's at least 10 people in the comments going, what is the point of this? Why haven't we signed someone? And I couldn't understand it under this one, because it's like, we've brought in a guy who will help us sign better players. Like, what? That's like going, right, I want a goal scorer. And it's like, right, we've signed the guy who makes goal scorers. And it's like, yeah, but he's not a goal scorer. It's like, I know, but look at the bigger picture here. And that's what I would say about Joe Savage. In my lifetime, has been a Hearts fan, right? Under the Chris Robinson era, under Romanoff, under Budge, right? It's been 3 different kind of ownerships, and then the foundation's going to be the next one. Most of my life, just because when you're a kid, you don't really care about the goings on behind the scenes. Like, I knew nothing for most of my life. But hearing stuff, it's like, for most, particularly Romanoff, it was mental, right? There's not a lot
year after year of turmoil.
Yeah, exactly. They alleged him walking in on transfer deadline day going, who's the most expensive player in Scotland? We'll get him. Like, that attitude is insane. And in the last 5 years, we always say this, off the pitch stuff has been handled very well. New stand, the business side has been done very well, but the football side of it hasn't. Joe Savage has come in, and it has kind of been the first time in my Heart's life where I've really sat up and been made aware of someone coming in. I know it's the football department, but it's the backroom aspect of it, and seemingly just ripping it up, going, no, we're moving forward in a progressive way. Both these signings to the men's team, Lansfield and McLaughlin, they felt like signings that we've seen other clubs make in the past, where we go, why can we not do something like that? That's a really good move.
And it's just bypassed us and whatever.
100%. Yeah. I genuinely have been really impressed with Joe Savage. I know it's not just Joe Savage doing this. I know Andrew McKinley will obviously be involved. Budge will be involved. We've got a board of directors. Joe Savage isn't just walking around with a blank checkbook going, right, I'm going to sign him, I'm going to bring him in, we're going to do that. But it's clear that Joe Savage is identifying these people to bring in, whether or not it's his final decision on whether or not they get to be brought in. He's the one going, look, I can get us him. I can get us him. I can get us this woman for the female team. It's like, it just actually feels like we've got a competent person in charge of the football department that knows what he's doing.
And an array of options, isn't it? Yeah. Rather than having a sole target going after them and moving on. It seems like, and this is merely me speculating here, it seems like we've got a list of players that we're after in particular positions, so that say one does fall through, we've instantly got somebody to move on to if the first one doesn't work out. I hope that's the case, and I hope that there will be bodies to come in, obviously on the field as well as off. But talking on the field matters. Of course, we will go into our second Premier Sports Cup match on the day of release. Actually, we're recording the Monday. This podcast will be out the Tuesday, and Cove Rangers come to town. A legend will be at Tynecastle once more, but obviously I'll get to see Paul Hartley.
I knew that's where that was going. That was the most predictable thing you've ever done on this show, and I commend you for it. That was exceptional. Well done.
Thanks very much, mate. But no, of course, Paul Hartley's Cove Rangers team come to Tynecastle. Hearts looking to double their win tally, make it 2 wins from 2 and 6 points from 6. What are you anticipating from Cove? Because, look, I don't know a lot about Cove Rangers. I've had a look at the squad, and I saw earlier on in the summer, I was really impressed by the business that they'd done, in that they'd signed Ross Draper and Ian Vigurs, who last season were just playing in the Premiership with Ross County. So added to Fraser Fivey, another recognisable name in there, former Dundee United, Wigan, Hibs midfielder. That trio in midfield certainly blows anything, or should blow anything, out of the water in League One. But the rest of the team, I know of Mitch Megginson and Big Rory McAllister up front, kind of lower league goal-scoring heroes. But this should be another victory for us, shouldn't it, really?
It should be. Weirdly, though, I actually think this is the toughest game of the group. I think it's tougher than Inverness, because they're just this bankrolled side for the Highlands who have rocked up and are just going like, aye, we're just going to be class. They're a very attacking team. By all accounts, it's very much in that kind of... Which is weird, because Hartley, I don't think as a manager is really known for that. Like, he's kind of more pragmatic in my view, whereas apparently at his time as Cove manager, he's just been going, we just go to... If you score 3, we'll score 4. But...
I don't know whether that was the case at Alloa, and that he adopted that same approach to kind of get them out of the lower leagues. Maybe with Dundee, he was that little bit more conservative, but he'd still have sort of game changers in the final third. I don't know. That's fair. Just an assumption.
That's definitely fair. I think it's going to be a really interesting game. I don't think they'll be like Peterhead, for example, who'll sit in, even though they probably should. Away from home at us, they probably should sit in, but I don't know if they will. Obviously, they kind of had a shock loss to Stirling Albion.
Yeah, did not see that coming.
Yeah, 100%. Really surprising. So there will be an element of they want to, because that's it. They're currently on no points. They want to be competing in this group.
That's good in the group for us, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely.
The Albion climbing the 3 points up there. I don't know. Do you think they'll view it as kind of nothing really to lose?
Yeah.
Paul Hartley obviously knows the club inside out, and I know that it's a limited capacity crowd, but he'll be fully aware that even if you frustrate Hearts fans, then things become trickier for the 11 on the park.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be that traditional Tynecastle thing of, if we start really well, I think the fans will tip it over to us, because Cove just won't be able to deal with us pushing them on. But yeah, if we're 20 minutes in and we've not even looked like scoring, then there'll be the boos.
The nerves kick in. It becomes that bit more tetchy. Yeah.
So this is why I'm relying on you to be Mr. Positive, because let's be honest, you're not really on this show. So I need you to reverse it.
I'm optimistic till my optimism's drained out of me.
Yeah, that's
the way I view it.
I need you to be cheering for them, winning every ball, whenever Demure touches it, be standing and applauding and just keeping it going. We need to be able to hear.
Starts. Oh my God.
It's going to be an absolute dream. But we need Adam Kennedy to be heard at all times during the game. I'll be watching from the comfort of my own living room, because I couldn't get a ticket. Mr. Kennedy was able to get a ticket.
That's quite sad now.
Yeah, exactly. It's
that's what Heart Midlothian's doing. They're splitting this podcast.
Exactly. That's the intent. because they know
scumbags.
They know that Demure is wanted by the general public and that we have brought it to them, and they try to sabotage this. However, I think we should win. I'll be annoyed if we concede because it breaks Craig Gordon's
record.
Yeah.
I don't know how many minutes. Is it a case of minutes to beat this
it's
record? Or is it that he has to see the 90 out?
He has to see the 90 out, I think.
Oh dear. What else was I going to say? Obviously, on the day of recording, we've announced the friendly with Sunderland. Do you think that it'll be full strength against Cove and sort of kids against the Mackhams, or what are you anticipating there?
I'd rather play the kids against Cove and play full strength against the Mackhams and just obliterate them. I know that friendly results mean nothing, but this friendly result means a lot to me, all right? I will genuinely be gutted if we get beat. I've never seen Hearts play Sunderland. This is a completely new thing for me.
I was discussing this with a couple of pals earlier on. I can remember Darren Bent scoring in a friendly at Tynecastle years back. And I thought we got beat 1-0, but my pal Ewan that I go to the games with, he informs me that we drew 1 each and that David Abua scored our goal that day.
Oh, that makes me so happy. I cannot tell you how happy that makes me that Abua scored against them. But honestly, it genuinely matters more to me than the Cove game. It genuinely does. Because I'm
Well, I was going to ask you for a prediction for the Cove game, but I'll ask you for predictions for both.
Why are you doing that to me? Because we're going to play the kids and we're going to get battered. And look, I've got so many folk who are Sunderland fans who follow me on Twitter who'll just see that they won't look at the team that we play. We'll play the team that played against Preston Pans and Whitehill and all that. Get beaten 9-0. And it'll be like, look, Hearts got battered 9-0. Ha ha ha.
The Farmers.
I'm going 2-0 again against Cove.
Right, that.
And I want a 5-1 against Sunderland. So I can say Hearts have beaten my two footballing rivalries 5-1.
That's just not going to happen, is it?
It's not. We're going to get battered 3-0 or something. What about you? What are you predicting for the Cove game? I know you're not as invested in the Sunderland friendly as I am.
No, couldn't give a toss. I would still quite like to see us beat Sunderland because they are, by all accounts, absolute jobbers.
Oh, they're the worst. They're the worst.
I'll stick with this 3-0 bandwagon. I'll say we'll beat Cove 3-0. I'll be optimistic. I think this is a much trickier game than Peterhead, and I wouldn't be surprised if Cove won League One. So whether that's a decent gauge or not, I don't know. But we should have enough to get past them. So I'm going 3-0 and hoping that the fans will roar us on. As for the Sunderland game, all depends on the team that we put out, doesn't it? I'll go. I've got 2 each in my head for some reason. I'll go with that. I've absolutely no idea. Haven't the foggiest till start, but hey, that's part of the fun.
Exactly. But yeah, so somehow we have managed to get this to like an hour and a bit. We were thinking, this is going to be a nightmare. We're going to have nothing to speak about. But I'm actually quite chuffed with how we've done here. Well done.
Listen, I was properly papping it, given that I was hosting. I was watching the game thinking, this is dead. There's no way I'm going to be able to drag this out.
It always happens for you.
It
you
does.
Always get the games that are shit.
This is why I've been pushing you to permanently host, but the people were like, no. This is getting split down the middle, so fair enough, it is what it is. But yeah, we've done well. I'm pretty pleased, given... Do you know, it's not been the most convincing hosted performance, a bit like the performance on Saturday, but job done, and we move on.
I think you're being very harsh on yourself. You were Peter Haring-esque in your performance as host. But yeah, so thank you very much for listening. This is obviously going out 3 hours before the Cove game starts. So if you're listening to it, I know that you're going, okay? Yes, Adam's going to the game. Hooray, I'm delighted. I hope we get beat. So your first game at Tynecastle is a loss. But we hope you have enjoyed. Look, hi, we're on YouTube and you can see us and you can see how my emotion about Luke Demure and Adam's anger at it. But yeah, if you want to actually watch us when we're speaking about all this rubbish, you can. Perth to Paisley on YouTube. Please leave a like and subscribe. It really, really helps with the YouTube algorithm. We're also Perth to Paisley on all the podcast platforms. please leave us a review and share it on that. It helps the algorithms there, and it just showcases that you're enjoying the show, which we really hope you are. We're Perth to Paisley on all forms of social media. If you want to give us a message and stuff like that, all the links are down below, as well as the email address, perthtopaisley@gmail.com. Adam, it is on the screen, but for the audio listeners, where can they get you on social media?
You can get me on all the socials at Adam T. Kendall, and make sure that you also subscribe to the Perth to Paisley YouTube channel in order to boost that sub count up. We want those numbers popping. What about yourself?
Exactly. I am at DMcIver22. We'll be back next week to discuss all the fallout of all the games that will have happened in that time. Hopefully, it's went very well, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much for listening. Bye-bye.
Get right behind your favourites. Let's make some noise!
You've ruined it.
How?